Hey, friends of the library. This is day 5 of Cranberry Library online lessons. And today I'd like to share with you a book called Naked Mole Rat Gets Dressed by Mo Willems. Now, most of you know Mo Willems from Elephant and Piggy books. So should not be a surprise that he's written a lot of others that you may not even know about. There is so much to learn about the fascinating little creatures known as naked mole rats. But for this story, you only need to know 3 things. 1, they are a little bit rat. 2, they are a little bit mole. 3, they are all naked. Well, they were, with one exception. Wilbur the naked mole rat who liked to get dressed. Hello. When the other naked mole rats saw him, they said, "Ew! Yuck! What are you doing?" "I like clothes," replied Wilbur. "When I get dressed, I can be fancy, or funny, or cool, or I can just be an astronaut." When the others heard that, they said, "Ew! Yuck! If you like clothes so much, then why don't you open a store or something?" Naked mole rats can be very sarcastic. But Wilbur thought that was a great idea. The other naked mole rats did not. They brought Wilbur to a giant portrait of Grandpa, the oldest, greatest, and most naked mole rat ever. "Look at that picture," they demanded. "Look at his heroic face. Look at his regal bearing. Look at his total lack of clothing." Grandpa did look heroic. Grandpa did look regal. But he would also look heroic and regal in a casual shirt and some summer slacks. "Ugh," said the other naked mole rats. "Don't you get it? Naked mole rats don't wear clothes." "Why not?" asked Wilbur. Something had to be done. Pages do not want to turn. The naked mole rats marched right over to Grandpa and told him all about Wilbur. And then he asked why not. Grandpa was very wise. He thought seriously about everything that he had heard. Then he thought some more. Finally, he said with a heroic, regal voice, "Gather the colony! I shall make a proclamation." "A proclamation, a proclamation, a proclamation!" When Wilbur heard about Grandpa's proclamation, he knew it was serious. But he had no idea what to wear. In the end, Wilbur decided to play it safe. Maybe not safe enough. The others were so busy looking at Wilbur's socks that no one noticed Grandpa enter until he cleared his throat and proclaimed, "Fellow naked mole rats, I had never worn clothes until I heard Wilbur's simple question, 'Why not?' Why not indeed? Do clothes hurt anyone? No. Are they fun? Well, they may not be for everyone. But this old naked mole rat wishes he had tried getting dressed earlier." Then Grandpa complimented Wilbur on his socks. As fast as his legs could carry him, Wilbur rushed home and put on his favorite outfit and dashed back. When Wilbur returned, he discovered that he was not alone. Much has been said about that day, but for this story, you only need to know 3 things. 1, some of the mole rats were naked. 2, some of the mole rats were clothed. 3, all of the mole rats had a great time. No exceptions. The end. So there we have it, a Mo Williams book that maybe you didn't even know he had ever written before. Today's activity is playing dress up. Wilbur created clothes out of all kinds of things, and you can do the same thing at home. All you need to do is ask permission and dig through the closet. This is a good time to be cleaning out that closet. Grab old shirts, funny pants, jackets. Scarves make great dress-up clothes. They can be veils, they can be scarves, they can be belts, they can be the reins of a horse. They can be anything you imagine them to be. And I'm sure that you have some old Halloween costume parts left, maybe even some old capes. But don't worry if you don't, because you can also just use an old bath towel, beach towel, even a blanket or a napkin make a perfect cape. You can even play a game. Have a relay race with one of your brothers or sisters and see who can put all the clothes on the fastest. Have fun. You can be anything you want and use your imagination when you play dress up. Let's go back to our story, Masters of Disaster, and pick up with the boys in Chapter 6, Cowboys and Fishermen. I've come up with our next project, men, or I should say the next 2 projects. Henry was walking home from school with Riley and Reed the week after the haunted house fiasco. Riley jumped in front of Reed and threw his arms out protectively. "We're having enough trouble with one adventure at a time." "Thanks, Riley, but the sores on my legs are pretty much healed. And I gotta tell you, I wonder what he's got in mind," Reed said. "I think I'm getting kind of hooked on the rush we're getting from doing these things." Riley looked at him skeptically, but stepped out from between him and Henry. "Okay, Henry, what's the plan?" "We need something bold, like 2 adventures at a time, to overcome the biggest mistake I've made so far." "Think about it for a second. What's our worst dilemma?" "The stench," Reed said. "That's bad, sure, but the worst thing is that we haven't let anyone know about our adventures. We've been setting up all these cool things, but we haven't got any kind of reputation. This is the kind of stuff that brings people's fame and fortune." "I posted every report on my blog, Henry," Riley reminded him. "Yeah, that's great. Maybe Reed and I never said anything, but we're both impressed by your online reports," Henry said. "Yeah, and you never make me seem like a clueless dork either, Riley," Reed added. "I always sound kind of fearless when you write about what I've done, and it's nice how you don't make too much about the whole stink factor." "You're welcome," Riley said, "but I see Henry's point. Even though I post all our adventures, we're never really getting the word out." "Who would we want to tell?" Reed asked. "Girls," Henry said. "The kinds of things we're doing really would help us be more popular with the girls, if they only knew about how brave and, creative," he nodded to Riley. "Well documented we've been lately." Henry nodded back. None of us seem to be able to make any kind of decent connection with a girl. "I don't know about you 2, Reed put in, but the only problem I have talking to girls is that I can't get close enough to a girl to talk. If she can hear me, she can smell me, no matter how many times my mother makes me scrub with special detergent and baking soda paste all over my skin to absorb the vile reek." "Success with girls, I figured out, is about image," Henry said, ignoring Reed. "I've been thinking about how we could change our image. We need something that makes us attractive. We should do something tough, something rugged." "In suburban Cleveland?" Reed snorted. "Good luck." "No, listen. My uncle has a farm out on the edge of Mud River, a couple of 100 acres, Henry said. He invited us to spend the weekend. Reed shook his head. "Farms mean animals. Animals mean poop. Me and any more poop means that my mother is going to move me out of the basement and into the garage, because no one, she says, should have to live with that kind of smell that I bring back from our adventures." "There are supposed to be some giant catfish in the river," Henry went on, remembering not to breathe through his nose near Reed. "They live in the mud along the bottom and get to be one, maybe 200 pounds. I thought we'd take the old rowboat and some poles and catch one. Catching huge fish is macho." Fishing sounds okay, but water doesn't smell. But you said that you had 2 projects. Oh yeah, Henry nodded. The rodeo. Everyone knows that cowboys have to beat girls off with sticks. Really, it's a stroke of genius. I wonder why I never thought of it sooner. Genius? Reed shook his head. It sounds like the most painful thing ever. My dad took me to a rodeo when I was little, and I remember lots of blood and lots of things breaking, like arms and legs and heads. Nah, Henry said. That's just to impress the audience. Nothing like that will really happen to us. Rodeos, Riley pointed out, are about riding huge, violent, untamed animals and falling off of them. Though, he stopped to think, one thing Reed is really good at is falling. He's almost as good at falling as he is collecting smells. Reed nodded, and then as if to prove his point, he tripped over a crack in the sidewalk. I've already worked it out, Henry went on. My uncle saved some old horses that we were going to put down after they retired from the rodeo circuit. He brought them back to his farm to let them live out their lives in a pasture along the river. He said they're completely tame, so old they're nearly blind and as gentle as kittens. You can ride them this weekend. Riding a couple of old horses doesn't sound so bad, Reed said, especially if you and Riley do the riding and I just watch. Clean and safe. Even if we don't do actual tricks, Henry said, riding old rodeo horses will be bound to impress all the girls. Or some girls. Maybe just one girl. And how do we make sure the girls find out? Riley said. No one is reading the blog. We'll take lots of pictures, Henry said. No matter what happens, there are sure to be at least a few shots that look really good, full of action. We pick the best ones and start showing them around school. I want to see what happens. I'm in, Riley said. I'd like to go fishing, but I'm not going anywhere near the manure. Count me out, Reed said firmly. Because you know what? I've been thinking. And I think girls will like me if I learn to stand up for myself and stop doing things that could seriously injure me and make me smell. Sure, Reed. We'd never make you do anything you didn't want to, Henry said. So it's settled. My mom will drive us to my uncle's farm this weekend, and we'll go fishing and ride broncos. He doesn't look so scary, Reed said on Saturday morning as the boys were leaning on top of the rail fence behind the barn looking at the bull. He was in a pen next to the one that held the 2 horses that Henry and Riley were going to ride. Are you sure he's even alive? Riley said. He's just standing there staring at the dirt. Well, Henry answered, Uncle Joe said he's pretty old, but still alive. See? He's breathing. His name is Willard, and he's super mellow, like a milk cow, really. Little girls used to ride him at carnivals and country fairs. They'd put a ladder against his side and let the kids climb up and sit on him. He does look mellow, Reed studied the bull. Uncle Joe said he wouldn't buck unless the bucking strap was tied around his withers. Henry looked at Reed. You sure you don't want to climb on and see what it's like, just for a picture? You'll be on and off in 10 seconds tops. A picture of you sitting on a bull would be better than one of us just riding old rodeo horses. Yeah, Reed said. I can do that. 10 seconds. What could happen in 10 seconds? Henry gave Reed a boost onto the bull's back. Settle into the shoulder just behind and back of the hump. Wrap the end of the rope around your waist. That's how the pro riders do it. Riley pulled his camera out of his backpack. Henry mounted one of the 2 saddled horses in the next pen and eased him near the fence to get into the shot with Reed on the bull. At first, Reed was tense, but the huge bull stood quietly, breathing gently beneath Reed, his chest going in and out like a giant bellows. Peaceful, really, Reed thought. Get him in the ribs with your heels, Henry said, just enough to get him to move out of the shadows so that Riley can get a good shot in the sunlight. I'll be in the background on the horse. Reed tentatively nudged the bull's ribs and felt Willard move. A mountain of flesh, one slow step forward. So far, so good, he thought. He smiled for Riley, who was shooting pictures as fast as his shutter would click. Riley backed towards the fence surrounding the pen to get a better shot. It was an electric fence, and his hip brushed against the wire. The current made him jerk backwards so hard that the wire broke and the end snapped forward and up, slapping Willard's rear end with a good jolt of electricity, approximately 4.5 inches below where he pooped. What could only be called lightning speed, Willard jumped straight up into the air. So high, Riley wrote later in his report, that even though he looked like he probably weighed a full ton, he seemed to rise above the roof of the barn. Willard cleared the fence around his pen and hit the ground, running full speed towards the pasture, where the cows grazed, and further on to the river that bordered the pasture. Reed's wrist was still lashed to the bull's shoulder, but the rope began slapping as he ran. Now wrapped and tangled in the tail of the rope, Reed slid down Willard's side until he was flapping like a flag alongside the galloping bull. Willard, being old, probably would have stopped running, but Reed's screams of "Call 911!" so unnerved the bull, which was not used to rodeo cowboys yelling for rescue, that he kept surging forward in a panic, trying to get away from Reed's piercing screams and flailing body. The two old roping horses, bred and trained to chase running cattle, somehow found anew last ounces of their youthful strength. They leapt the fence separating their pen from the pasture, and tore off towards the river with insane speed in pursuit of Willard and Reed, one of them carrying Henry, who was clutching the saddle horn with both hands. As the horses sprinted to catch up with Willard, Reed, still tangled in the rope, slid until he was underneath the rampaging bull, being dragged through the mud and the cow patties through the pasture. All three animals flew off a 3-foot bank and slammed in the murky mix of mud and slimy algae and dark water at the edge of the mud river. The rope that Reed was tangled in finally came loose, and he went flying another 20 feet before belly flopping in the middle of the river. As Henry sat in the mud and watched, Reed clawed and spit and screamed and fought his way out of the water, clutching what was later proved to be a 74.5-pound catfish that, in a stroke of amazing luck, had happened to be lazily swimming directly beneath where he splashed into the river. "I'm okay," Reed said. "I swallowed 10 pounds of stuff I didn't even want to think about. I mean, that was a pasture we went through. And underneath the bull is not the best place to ride. But I'm okay. Don't want to worry anybody or brag, but I think I caught an alligator when I landed in the water. I can't really see with all the mud in my eyes. Plus, I'm afraid to look at what I'm holding. But I'm okay. I got the most awesome video and photos while you were being dragged on your face through the pasture," Riley hollered as he finally reached the riverbank. "This camera has an amazing zoom lens. I got you and the fish, too. And you were worried about doing 2 plans at the same time." Henry wagged his finger at Reed. "You should have trusted that everything would work out. It always does. This may be your best adventure yet, because being dragged upside down by a panic-stricken bull who was chased by 2 runaway horses, and then landing on your face in the river and catching a ginormous catfish with your bare hands is the best possible outcome. I couldn't have planned it better. Is it just me, men? Or do you think we have a real talent for adventure?" "Adventure," Riley said. "I'd say we're even better at disaster." He waded in to help Reed onto the riverbank. Reed raised his fish in triumph. "We're the masters of disaster." That ends chapter 6. We'll start next time with chapter 7. See you next time.